You're listening to Wordslinger Podcast, episode 138, Twitter for Authors with Jesper Schmidt. This episode of the Wordslinger Podcast is brought to you by Draft to Digital. Convert your manuscript, distribute it online, and get support the whole way at drafttodigital.com.
It's the Wordslinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger, and I'm kind of sitting here on a very chill, and I mean that literally, a very cold Houston, Texas morning. It's been down in the low 20s all week. We've had, and I know, I'm going to get 1,000 emails from people who are dealing with like negative 1,000 degree weather. I get it, man. Places are colder elsewhere, but we don't deal with cold very well in Houston. We don't see it that often. I can count on one hand the number of times it's been under 40 degrees in my area over the past 10 years. And I wouldn't get very far. I wouldn't get to very many fingers. But this past week, man, it's been in the 20s all week. Currently, right now, it's actually in the sort of mid 30s. So warmer. So it's practically balmy out there. So I am real happy about today's guest. If you have struggled at all. Not with speech the way I sometimes do, but with your social media strategy. If you've been thinking about maybe you need a social media strategy, or maybe it just scares the hell out of you, this guy is going to be someone you're going to want to kind of pal around with. I'm talking to Jesper Schmidt. Now, if you want a challenge, get your South Texas American tongue to say the word Jesper when you see the word Jesper. And I'm sorry, Jesper. I'm possible, but I'm going to confess to these things right up front so we know that I struggled several times with saying this name correctly. I am very sorry, but I want to make sure I do because this is a name to know. He's the author of Twitter for Authors. He's also a fantasy and fiction author. So you're gonna enjoy this interview and I think get a lot out of it. If you are, the book, by the way, has released by now. We talk about it as an upcoming release, but as you may have guessed, I record these episodes in advance. So November 4th, the book hit shelves, and you can now go out and find your copy of Twitter for Authors and sort of lean in on using Twitter to help boost sales, help boost your platform. All the important things that really matter. Social media it's a great tool. I have not personally found it to be such a fantastic tool for direct sales. But what I have found, this is my new method right now, is it's a great way to communicate with the people that will hopefully start being your best sales advocates. And we get into that a little bit in the show. I'm not going to take up any more time. My tendency, my habit is to try to fall into a sort of a monologue here, but we'll save that. I've got some great news. You're going to want to hear great news. I have some interesting news, interesting indie publishing news. I picked, 3 stories each week to share with you. I got 3 good ones I think you're going to be very interested in. So hang out, stick around after the interview to get that and some other housekeeping and updates. Plus, maybe I'll monologue a little on the other side. On the other side, I have a social media story to share that I think you'll dig. So, take care. Enjoy this interview with Jesper Schmidt. Sorry, Jesper. Enjoy this interview with Jesper Schmidt. Damn it. Enjoy this interview. And I'll see you on the other side with my head hung in shame. Hey, everybody. Okay. we're going to have a conversation today with somebody. I'm actually looking forward to this on a couple of different levels. We're talking to Jesper Schmidt. He is the author of Twitter for Authors. He's also a fantasy fiction author. So you're definitely going to check out his work. But in particular, because we are very much focused on how indies and entrepreneurs can up their business in any way possible, we're going to chat about Twitter. I'm very excited about this, Jesper. I use Twitter. I probably do it all wrong. Like everybody. And I manage, 4 or 5 different accounts at this point, including the Draft Digital stuff. So I'm very curious to hear, sort of your strategy on this. First of all, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on, Matt.
Thanks a lot.
So tell me, first of all, give me a little rundown of the book. You don't have to give us, by the way, the secret formula or anything, but I would kind of like to talk about sort of the benefits of Twitter for authors and how we can get a little more out of that platform. But tell me a little about the book.
Yeah, okay. So, I guess basically where I'm coming from is that, in my day job, I've been working with like optimization and, ensuring results and all that sort of thing for many, many years. And I guess I kind of started out where the rest of us starts out with Twitter. So I spent quite a lot of time on it. I was kind of getting nowhere for a long time. I think I started out in 2012, and it hasn't been maybe only the last maybe 1.5 years that I kind of got a system together that actually works. And so I guess there's a reason that many believe that Twitter is completely useless as a tool for authors. So it also took me a lot of trial and error to get to the stage where I'm at now. But I did manage to get to a stage where now basically I have kind of a system in place now that is focusing on being generous and being helpful and basically building relationships.
Right.
Because those kind of buy my book tweets that you see on Twitter 100 times a day, that is like throwing spaghetti against the wall and hope something sticks. It's not working.
Right.
So instead now I basically have a lot of engagement on Twitter. So I basically documented the whole thing in this book that you mentioned, and then that became the results of it. But at the core of it, there's no like secret source or secret that I know and nobody else knows. It is about being very methodical about how you approach it, and then spend your time on the things that brings you some value.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The trick. So Twitter is one of those things that when I first sort of hit the scene with social media, Twitter and Facebook were already the leaders. And I gravitated toward Twitter because I liked sort of the pithy. I'm a wisecracking one-liner kind of guy, and that's what I was using Twitter for primarily at the time. But then when it came to increased engagement, I started moving over to Facebook, and so now Twitter I essentially have on autopilot. I respond to everything, and I add new posts to to Social Jukebox, which I had the creator of that on the show a while back. And I'm continuously adding new content to that and letting it cycle. Twitter seems to be that place where you can let content repeat over and over again and nobody seems to mind because there's so much going on anyway. So that's been my approach. Now you're free to tell me that's the dumbest approach you've heard, or you need to stop that right now and start over or whatever. But is that kind of the idea? Is like what's the best approach an author takes to find that audience and reach them?
Yeah, I think before there's so many things we can touch upon here, but before we get into any of it, I think the most important thing you need to do is channel people onto your email list. This is not something new. This is something we all heard a million times before. But of course, with Twitter, the question might be, so how do you really do that? And how do you do it in an automated way that actually is that has a certain effectiveness to it, and also how just the email or tweeting about saying, hey, join my list here and get my newsletter. I mean, nobody cares about your newsletter. You need to make it something that those people who is going to join is something that they want to join to. And basically you have in Twitter, you'll have like two primary tools. So I have two tools that I use that work. So one of them we all know about, that's the pinned tweet at the top. So you tweet something, you pin it at the top, and then on that tweet you make sure that that is something that you're giving away. So that could be anything from a free chapter to some kind of interviews you have, or in my case I use some behind the scenes stuff from my trilogy, whatever it might be. But make sure that that it is prime real estate on Twitter. So make sure you use it and not pin some general joke or something you thought was funny. That's a bit of waste of good space there.
I'm doing that all wrong, apparently. That's that.
And then the other thing, and there was a reason I didn't mention a free book there on the pinned tweet, because there is a much more effective way of doing or getting the most out of your free book. I should probably say in general, I don't prescribe to the idea of having perma-free books and stuff like. I really don't do that, but each to his own. But even if you have a perma-free book or you don't have it, doesn't really matter. But you take, in this case, on Twitter, even though I don't have a perma-free book, I do give my first book away simply because first of all, the volume of what you're getting is of course less than if you put it up on perma-free on sites like Amazon, etc.
Right.
But if you go into the marketing module of Twitter, so you're not going to spend any money here, but you're just going to fool Twitter to think that you are going to spend money.
Okay.
So you go into the whole Twitter marketing module, and in there you will get access to something called Twitter cards.
Okay.
And Twitter cards is basically nothing exceptional other than it's just a type of tweet that has a more beautiful graphical look to it, basically. So once you add a link into that tweet, it will show as a picture instead, and you can click the whole picture and it'll take you to wherever you want it to go.
Okay.
And in there, of course, the audio media here is not the best to explain how to do it, but in there, basically you can set up this Twitter card and you link it to your account, and then I use a third-party software called Status Brew to basically take that tweet and automatically send it to everybody who then follows me. So every time somebody follows me, they'll automatically get this tweet saying, hey, thank you for your follow, or something like that. Click here to get my first book for free as a thank you.
Okay.
And then people click and they go over to a landing page I have, and then on the back end of the landing page, book funnel is linked to that, so they just get the book automatically, and I basically don't have to do anything. So all of it happens without any let's say hands-on manually for me.
Okay. I like manual. I mean, no, I'm sorry. I like automated.
Yeah.
I do not like manual at all. So.
No, exactly. I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, my whole system here, I mean, I drive a lot of engagement here. So I get like almost 500,000 impressions per month, and I get a lot of people replying to me. I get approximately 600 link clicks a month. Right. And out of those, half of them, about 300 people subscribes to my email list. And mind you, all of that happens automatically.
Right.
And I can manage this whole system in less than 30 minutes a day. So it is really manageable, but of course, you have to leverage certain third-party tools to do so. I mean, you can't do it manually either. And to the extent possible, I have only use free tools as far as I could.
Yeah. But
to drive, all the value out of what you can get here, then you have to use some paid tools. There is no way around it. But in writing the Twitter for Authors book, I purposely made it so that there are no like affiliate links in there or anything, and I did that on purpose because I didn't want it to show like I was trying to tell people use this software because I was going to get some money from it. So right. I've only put them in there because I use them and because I feel that they are necessary and because I feel that they get you the most value for money and they do what they are supposed to do.
Right.
So that's
it is interesting, by the way, that your approach is to focus on Twitter in an age where everybody's really looking at Facebook or Amazon, for ads. So what made you decide, is Twitter sort of your primary tool? Or do you use the other tools, or how do you do this?
Well, yeah. So I use Twitter, obviously, and
Mm-hmm.
then I use Facebook for running Facebook ads because Facebook is just the best in the world for target audience and stuff
Right.
like that. So there's no way around that. So I use that, and then as my third element, I use YouTube. So I
Okay.
make
Interesting.
weekly videos on YouTube. But I think in general, I mean, you have to go with what you like to use. I mean, if you don't
Right.
like Twitter, for example, don't start using Twitter just because you heard some good tips here and then. And
Right.
I mean, you'll get bored of it and tired of it if you do that. You have to like the platform before going in there. But if you like the platform, then there are really ways to really get something out of Twitter that I think most people don't get.
Right. So real quick, man, how would someone find your, I didn't ask you this when I did the pre-interview stuff. So where would someone find your YouTube channel? How can they find you on that?
So if you go to YouTube and, for example, if you just type in hashtag Fane of Fantasy, then you will find it. But it's not to do with Twitter marketing, that YouTube channel. That's to do with like fantasy related stuff. So, but if anybody's listening and like fantasy related stuff, then there's a lot of good videos every week there.
Okay. All
Or
right.
you can just go to my Twitter feed. You'll pretty quickly pick up some links directly over to YouTube from there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's easy. And shocker, you referred everyone back to your Twitter feed.
Yeah.
um, you know, I am kind of fascinated by this because I while I see I have a lot of engagement on Twitter,
Yeah.
and I go back and forth with people on Twitter, but that seemed to be the only thing I was getting out of it. Like I don't think that if I were even able to track where my sales come from on that channel, I don't think I'm getting a ton, uh, because it's kind of a noisy channel. So what are some ways to kind of cut through that noise?
Yeah, I mean, well, you said one of them first yourself just before. I mean, of course, it is important always to reply to people. I mean, if people
Yeah.
tweet back at you, you have to reply to them. That
Right.
goes without saying.
Right.
And I mean, there are basically, I think I would say it in terms of, there's a combination of two different tools I use here to basically, first of all, the thing is that you need to find the right people to engage with. So Twitter is filled with people. So there's like it has like 1 billion unique visits every month, and there's 313 million active users on Twitter. So there's a lot of people, and it doesn't matter which ones you get a hold of.
Right.
And for that, I use a piece of software called Crowdfire.
Okay.
And Crowdfire is basically a tool that you can kind of use to follow and unfollow people and stuff like that. So it's basically pretty basic in that sense. But what it does really, really great is that it will filter through people you have followed before, for example, so you don't start following the same person twice. It will also automatically do some of the groundwork for you in terms of removing people who it knows are spam accounts and stuff like that. So it'll filter that out for you. And then the trick is that you need to copy followers from another account, in the sense that what I would do in my case, for example, is I would find another fantasy author, and then I'll start to copy that person's followers, out of the thinking that most of those people will probably be interested in fantasy.
Okay.
And once I start following them, then the kind of unspoken rule on Twitter is usually most people, if you are followed, you'll follow people back.
Right.
And then they'll do that. And then that's where my Twitter card from before kicks in. So the first thing they will get is my tweet saying, hey, thank you for the following. Here's a fantasy book for you.
Interesting.
And given that they should be interested in fantasy, they should be going ahead and downloading my free book there. And then I have them inside my email list, and I can build the relationship from there.
That's interesting. So it's almost like the Facebook lookalike audience, but you're going out and following them, hoping they'll return and follow you. Yes. Right. Yes. Yeah. That is interesting. I'm making notes of like the software you're mentioning. So the people listening, this will be in the mentions section of the show notes, complete with links. And you mentioned BookFunnel, which, Damon Courtney is a friend. He's been on the show, but he also lives about 2 miles away from me here in the Houston area. So when we were at NINC together last week, but so you use BookFunnel to deliver your freebie.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Yeah. I mean, that's I always like to give Damon a shout out when I can.
Yeah.
All
No,
right.
but it's a very, very good tool. I mean, and as I think most of the listeners here being authors know, they have an excellent customer service and they take care of all that headache for us. So that's perfect.
Exactly. That's very cool, man. So do you automate your tweets at all, or is it all, how do you handle that content?
Yeah. So what I do is that I'm using a piece of software called Social Oomph.
Okay.
And inside Social Oomph, you can set up different queues. So I have one, for example, for content, like you mentioned yourself before. So one queue is where I, for example, tweet my videos.
Okay.
And inside Social Oomph, it allows you to set a whole range of settings on each of your queues, and each one of them can be different. So you can tell it to, okay, how often should it tweet? You can even set like start and end dates and stuff like that. That could be relevant for book launches, for example, where you want the tweets to stop. So you just load it in there, tell Social Oomph on that date, stop those promotional tweets, and it will. Then I also have some appearances, or what I call appearances, which be things like this interview, for example. So I would put stuff in there, but then that will go out a lot less frequent. So only once in a while it'll tweet something so that people don't, let's say, are getting a link to a Wordslinger podcast every single day, and people might get.
I'm good with that.
You don't mind, but some might.
Some might. Yeah. That's cool.
And then, of course, I do have my like kind of not directly buy my book tweets, but I have some promotional tweets in the sense that it's usually like I use Canva, to take my book cover, and then I'll either put in some words onto the picture from some of the stuff that maybe my beta readers have mentioned that they like these and these words particular or sentences. Then I'll put them on, or it could be an extract of a review or something. And then a link to where people can get the book. So I'll put that into a separate queue, but again, that only goes out pretty rarely. So it'll be like once in every 20 tweets or something will be something about that. So it's only like once every 24 hours. So my whole system here basically will ensure that 18 automated tweets goes out in every 24-hour cycle. One of them being a promotional tweet about buy my book without saying buy my book.
Right.
And 2 of them will be manual tweets that I once every Saturday morning I sit down and schedule the next weeks of tweets, but those will all be manual because then I'll try to hit everything kind of time sensitive in those tweets. So that could be something like how my writing is going, or something that happened this week in my life, or whatever, all the kind of time sensitive stuff I stick in there as the last 2 so one goes out every morning, one every evening. So in combination, there's 20 tweets in every 24-hour cycle going out there.
Okay. That's good. That's a good number to know. I think I'm doing many more than that with my automated stuff. So I may have to dial it back a little.
I mean, you can always tinker with there is no magic number for how often you should tweet, and you can always kind of dial it up or dial it down to see how it affects your analytics. I mean, you can go into Twitter analytics and see how the effect of what you're doing if you want. But at least for me, I found that 20 tweets every 24 hours works good for the audience of readers, and I assume that probably would apply to most authors, that is often enough to cover the different time zones. But it's not, let's say, too much so people get annoyed with it. But maybe I should mention also that the other nice thing with Social Oomph is that inside Social Oomph, you can, when you put in your tweets there, you can use some different symbols like curly brackets and stuff when you put them in, and you can actually put 3 different variations of the same tweet in there. And Social Oomph will automatically cycle between the different variations. So if you can imagine your content queue, for example, is filled with 100 tweets, and each of them have 3 variations. So that's 300 different kind of tweets that it'll cycle through.
Right.
And as it does so, let's say the amount of time between one people seeing the same tweet until they see the same tweet again later on might be weeks or even months, depending on how much content you have in the queue. Right. So people won't see the same tweet going out, or when they do, they can't even remember that they saw it before, because it's been several weeks or maybe a month or more.
Right. I kind of count on the sort of soup of Twitter to make sure people don't remember. I get some folks who they follow me closely enough, I guess, that they see the same tweet every now and then. They'll comment. So maybe I need to mix it up a little more. My plan for that was to just keep cramming more and more content in there so that there was always something different going.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you have a queue big enough with a lot of content, then it probably doesn't matter. But I just made it a habit that everything I add something to my content queue, I'll put in 3 variations and use those curly brackets and stuff. So Social Oomph understands that's kind of code to Social Oomph that it needs to cycle. So I just do that by default now. So it's just let's say one more way of preventing people for probably noticing that there is a system in place. But at the end of the day, I mean, unless you want to spend hours on Twitter every day, then you have to automate it. There is a risk, of course, that people will know the same or see the same stuff. But there's no way around that.
Yeah, that's true. So how do you feel about the new 280 character limit they're kind of rolling out?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just sticking to what I have because I have everything automated for what it is already. So I don't know. I mean, it'll give you a bit more space, I guess, but that
doesn't always equate to good news, really. I mean, more space to talk. You just have more opportunities to stick your foot in your mouth, that sort of thing. So that's cool, man. So what are some like downsides to using Twitter? I mean, surely you have maybe some horror stories or something that's gone terribly wrong that we can avoid.
Yeah, I mean, the big downside is, of course, what I did the first couple of years. I mean, it's a time suck. I mean, you can spend so much time on Twitter and basically get nothing in return of your efforts. And I also have to say, I mean, of course, Twitter is not going to revolutionize your book sales all of a sudden. I mean, it is a tool of building relationship with people, and for that, it is really a powerhouse for one-to-one relationship building, because you communicate with people in a completely different manner. Right. And of course, the good thing is that you don't have to pay for people to see your own post like on Facebook. So that's pretty nice. And also in terms of driving traffic somewhere else, Twitter is extremely good at that. Right. But as we said in the beginning, you have to like it. So otherwise, it's going to be a time suck, and don't bother trying to follow along in your Twitter feed to see what people tweet about. I have, I think, about 40,000 followers now, so just forget about it. You can't follow it. But what you can do is, of course, every time Twitter notifies you that somebody tweeted at you, make sure you reply those when they write to you specifically, and then, of course, you can set up lists if you want and divide people into different lists if there are certain people you do always want to see their tweets. So you can visit that list once a week or once a day or whatever you feel like. Yeah,
that's interesting. I never use the lists. I don't know why. And no. I kind of forgot they existed, actually. And I know that was big when they first released it. I every other day I got a message saying I was added to some list or another.
Yeah.
So now I'm still
I kind of use the list in reverse, to be honest. I use it as a tool because I don't really add people to the. Let me put it like this: I do add people to the list, and once a week when I sit down on the Saturday morning to schedule my tweets, I do go through my list to see if somebody of those people actually added something interesting that I want to comment or something. But other than that, because as you said, once people add you to a list, they will be told, or you will get a message back, the name of that list. Yeah. And I use that as my advantage. So I have only one list, and I call it awesome people.
Oh, okay.
So when I start seeing, because you will after a while, you'll start seeing the same names commenting or
Right.
retweeting your stuff and stuff like you'll start recognizing people. And when I
Yeah.
start recognizing people, I just go in and add them to the list, and then they'll get this message that you've just been added to the awesome people list,
Yeah.
which is pretty nice, you know. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
working in
I'm,
reverse in the sense
I'm
that
on that list, right? I'm on there, right? I'm on.
yeah,
Am I?
I have to go and check.
Nah, no. It's too late now. It's too late. I didn't even make the list, man. All right. So
You're probably not retweeting my stuff enough. Then you would make the list.
that's probably true. Yeah, that's probably true. You're the thing. Okay. So are there some don'ts that we need to keep in mind? Like, as we do this, is there like definite things we should avoid doing as we're marketing? I know there's, don't go out there and say buy my book every other tweet,
Yeah.
or possibly even one tweet, but anything else like that we need to avoid?
Yeah, so I have besides the buy my book tweet that you want to avoid, and I have two other things that I follow and I advocate the same in my book, and one of them is just make it a habit never ever to tweet when you are drunk or even tipsy. Forget it. You will regret it.
When will I tweet? When will I tweet?
Yeah. Maybe you need to get off Twitter. I don't know.
Yes.
No,
Right.
so that's for sure one rule. I would say do not do that.
Okay.
And then the other thing is that I try to steer far away from anything to do with like commenting on politics or religions or anything that might like divide my following in half. So some will like it and some will hate it. I just don't see any reason for it, and I don't see how it would link to an author brand, and I just don't see the benefit of it. And the only thing you can do is risk losing something, and there's nothing really to be gained from it. So that's the other thing I say: stay away from stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Those seem like common sense rules that I break every single day. I try not to get involved. I try not to say anything. Political or otherwise, but you get drawn into it. I mean, I do see authors, big name authors, John Scalzi, for example, Anne Rice, some big name authors out there who are, commenting on this stuff, and they get a lot of engagement in that. But of course, John Scalzi is like, depending on who you are, he's like one of the most hated sci-fi writers on the planet. So maybe he's not a good example to follow, I like the guy, by the way. I've met him a few times. He's a good guy. But he has some opinions.
There is some branding stuff going on in this conversation as well. I mean, because I think I saw at some point J.K. Rowling was commenting on some politics stuff as well. I mean, but there is some branding stuff. If it is part of your brand, then of course go for it. But I'm just let's say talking from a position of, if you're like the average fiction writer and you don't really have any way of your author brand or reason for your author brand to engage in politics, or you don't have, let's say, non-fiction books that links to some of it in some way or another.
Right.
I still just don't think that is a good idea, but each to his own, of course. But I wouldn't do it.
Right now, me neither. I think that's the wise choice, no matter what you're writing about. And I know now I'm a thriller author. Maybe there could be a case made that thriller authors should probably comment on the world stage, but it doesn't usually end well, and it's usually not tied in with your fiction anyway. So why bother?
Yeah.
But that becomes the conversation, right? It becomes the ongoing conversation. I actually find that I get annoyed with. I follow quite a few people, a lot of Marvel Comics writers, for example, many of whom are very political in what they post, and it does kind of make me want to tune them out. So maybe you're onto something there.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, the bottom line, I guess, is what kind of messages do you want your Twitter feed to be filled with?
Right.
What kind of engagement do you want to spend your time on? Do you want to argue politics with somebody who doesn't really care about your work or your books anyway? Or do you want to fill your Twitter feed with tweets where people can see that you're engaging with readers and having helpful conversations? As I said in the beginning, I'm focusing my tweets on being helpful and being inspirational and stuff like. So I share things, for example, from my YouTube channel with fantasy videos where I share things to my fantasy audience about stuff that they will find helpful and inspirational and stuff like that. So that's the stuff I want people to see in my feed when they come to my profile the first time, and not half filled with arguments with somebody about some political situation somewhere. What am I going to gain from that?
Right. So give me a typical tweet. Give me something that you would typically roll out.
Yeah. Okay.
And I have to apologize because I told you right up front I wasn't going to ask any gotcha questions, and then I put you right on the spot. If you don't have something ready, don't worry about it. But I was just trying to see if you had like a typical Tuesday at 1:30 in the afternoon tweet.
Yeah. No, don't worry. So it depends on where it comes from. So of course, some of my tweets will come from social oomph, as I said before. Okay. So some of them will be stuff like one of them, for example, that goes out is so don't believe that life at medieval castles was that glamorous. And then they link to the YouTube video where I kind of explain how to work medieval castles in your fantasy settings. So that could be
okay. All right.
And one of my manual tweets from today, for example, was that I tweeted out that if all goes well, I should be done with the first draft of the final book in the trilogy by the end of this week. So that's just simple stuff like that as well.
Right.
You make use of relevant hashtags as well because that drives more attention as well.
I think you suffer from the same. I'm not going to call this a problem. It's not a problem. It's more of a challenge. The same challenge that I have in that I have a split audience, right? I have my readers, right? Yeah. And then I have the authors that I work with and talk to through WordSlinger, through Draft to Digital, through all that. Do you have any? Now, I've recently started splitting out. I split out the WordSlinger stuff, but I still quote it because my WordSlinger audience, if they were following me at all, they're following me on, Kevin Tomlinson. Yeah. So I'm still kind of repeating. I picked up the RSS feed for the tweets from WordSlinger podcast, and I'm repeating those. Yeah. Because I don't want to lose the audience. But do you have advice on how would we sort of split our personas? I'm managing 5 different Twitter feeds right now, and thank God for TweetDeck. Yeah. Do you use tools like that? Do you do multiple accounts?
No. Okay. You're absolutely right in the sense that the ideal situation would be to split your, say, nonfiction. For example, this Twitter for Authors book. Right. That will go into my Twitter feed, and people who are fans of fantasy probably couldn't care less. Right. And then there will be another part of the audience on Twitter who are also authors, and hopefully they will care. But ideally, you should really, split them apart. Yeah, just like a mailing list. It becomes a time management problem, really. I mean, do you have the time to do that? Then great. I don't. So for me, it's important to be able to manage the whole Twitter stuff in the less than 30 minutes a day. So that's I have to keep them together, which might not be ideal, but yeah. But I still believe that there is something for everybody going out. So maybe they just have to ignore one or twice of the tweets once in a while. But maybe so. Okay. That's it. Yeah. I'm really kind of struggling with that right now. I think it is a lot like your mailing list. You want to segment your list. If you're a nonfiction writer as well as a fiction writer, you want to make sure that you're communicating the right message to the right audience. I didn't do that from the start. I'm guessing you probably didn't either. No. So now I have a mixed list. Well, it's the same problem with your also bots on Amazon, right? Yes. I don't necessarily want authors. I love my authors. Right? Love them. But I don't necessarily want them going and buying my fiction, even though it would mean sales, because the also bots are all over the place. Yeah. So
yeah, someone's going to buy my latest thriller and they look in the also box and there's a whole bunch of like Chris Fox's, books for authors or whatever. Not even his fiction. It's all like the books for authors. So, so there's a dilemma there, but I guess that would be early on advice. Like if you haven't already gotten a jump on this, probably some good advice is segment early. If you're going to have multiple audiences, keep them pure. That's
if you can. I mean, the thing is that if you start segmenting it out and you have ways of splitting out your email list, you have ways of splitting out your social media, then you need to basically to do the same thing on Facebook, I guess. And but I think before you go there, you should probably sit down and have a good think about, do I have the time to do this?
Right.
Because what is probably worse than not splitting it out is to start splitting it out and then figure out, oh, I don't have the time now, I want to combine it.
Right.
And that's probably even worse than splitting.
Right. Probably so. Yeah.
So I don't know. I haven't done it because I know I don't have the time for it, but ideally
I'm working on it. I've got, I split out, Wordslinger Podcast has its own Twitter feed now, has its own YouTube channel, which I haven't started producing much for it yet. Has its, it's getting its own website. So I'm working on splitting all that out for that very reason, but there's a challenge there. So, but you're right. I mean, if I do that and it turns out to be too much work, I don't think it will though. I really don't. At this point, I've been managing half a dozen Twitter feeds for so long. At any given time, it might be between 5 and 8 feeds, depending on what I'm doing. I've gotten pretty good at that in that I automate a lot of the posts, but I monitor and respond directly to anybody who tags us or tags me or So every time, by the way, we're going to look behind the scenes. Anytime someone tweets to Draft Digital and gets a response, that's me. So for now, anyway, all right, man. Well, look, we're kind of coming up on it. I don't want to keep you too long, and we're gonna do our special Wordslinger after show for those who are supporting us on. I almost said something wrong. Patreon is what I was trying to get at. For those of you supporting us on Patreon, you're going to want to tune in. But for now, Jesper, tell us where they can find. Well, first of all, when does the book release?
4th of November.
Okay, so there's a slight chance that this episode may go live after the release. We're going to try to see if we can fix that, but you'll be able to find that book is called Twitter for Authors, and that's Jesper Schmidt, and that's Jesper, Jesper, because you are from, where are you from?
Denmark.
Finland, because you are from Finland, and that's how you pronounce it.
Denmark.
My
wife is from Finland, so that's that.
I misheard you. All right, your wife is from Finland and you're from Denmark.
Yes.
And you guys just got the whole, and this just means nothing to you, I'm sure. You got the Kobo Plus deal going on there where you guys can read for like, I don't know what it is, like $10 a month or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's neither here nor there. It's just a random only fact I know about Denmark right now. So, all right. So where can they find you online?
Yeah, so if you want to see those videos, then you can check Fane of Fantasy on YouTube, of course, and then my website is just my name, so www.jesperschmidt.com.
Okay.
And you will find the book there as well on Twitter for Authors if you're interested in that.
Excellent. And of course, they can follow you on Twitter.
Yes.
Which is
just the reverse. So it's at Schmidt Jesper. So it's just my last name.
What did you do that for? Were there a lot of Jesper Schmidts?
Apparently so.
Really?
I couldn't take that. So I had to do the reverse.
That is shocking to me. And by now there may be 100 Kevin Tomlinsons. So I did manage to I try to nab Kevin Tomlinson on every platform as soon as they emerge. So, all right. Okay, well, hey, Jesper, you hang out. We're going to chat a little bit more. Everybody else, right now, you're hearing some groovy bridge music. It's going to take you into the break and into the wrap up at the end of the show. Dance in place, if you will. Thanks so much for tuning in. Jesper, thanks so much for being on the show, man. And everybody else, we'll see you on the other side Okay, here we are on the other side. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Jesper Schmidt. I did. Twitter is one of those things. It's social media in general. It's one of those things that I have a strange sort of relationship with. You might as well. Over time, I've changed my attitude about all social media. Frankly, I've more or less withdrawn. I still interact. I still respond to anything anybody tags me in. I still post things. I still post even opinions. But largely, I don't rise to the bait of debating people about things anymore, which I don't think is helpful. And I used to sort of post my, I guess, tirades. I mean, although I tried not to tirade necessarily, but I would give my opinion on certain things, and there was an implication that if you didn't agree with me, you were a moron or idiot or whatever, and that never did gel well with who I actually am. Never felt right, and always made me feel awful afterward. I've deleted posts in the past because they just went awry. Because I'm supposed to be a peacemaker in this world, right? So if I'm saying things, even if I believe the things I'm saying and feel passionately about them, if all I'm accomplishing with that is to stir up strife and get people angry and get people frustrated with nowhere to aim that, no motivation to move forward and do something with that, something constructive with it, then what's the point? That's not what we were discussing necessarily in this interview. It was focused on how to use Twitter to sort of build and grow your author business. And I think that the principles can apply to really any social media platform in general. So I had an interesting social media experience this morning, just before I recorded this episode. I won't name names here because I don't want to call anybody out. I don't have permission to use their name in this capacity anyway. But someone, I posted something about Donald Trump. This irks me a little, but I always feel compelled to state up front that I'm not a Donald Trump supporter, as if I have to justify what I'm going to say next, But I had posted an article about the whole fake news awards, right? And I had not realized that there were so many retractions to stories about Trump that I never heard about. And these were stories that were shaping some of my opinions about the man. Now, here, let me make something clear. I don't like Donald Trump as a person. I respect him as a human being. I respect him as the president. I would never allow someone to harm him, physically harm him or whatever, endanger him or his family or any of that. I mean, that I would afford him the same rights I would afford anybody. But I don't particularly like him, and I haven't since way back in the Apprentice days. I never liked the guy. I always thought he was a kind of loudmouth. I didn't think he was a particularly good businessman. I got a lot of negative opinions about him and his career, but I was willing to let everything live and let live right up until he became the president of my country. And since he's been president, I've really been ashamed of a lot of the things he's said on Twitter. I don't think he's sort of rude. He's uncouth. He's not a very good diplomat. I don't think he's qualified to be president. Now, all that said, I do think that his presidency is actually doing some good things, which it's just astounding to me that just saying that gets me labeled as a, quote, Trump supporter, which is about the same as being labeled as a, quote, rapist or a racist, and I don't even fathom how people can make that kind of leap. Whatever he may or may not have done, first of all, I don't think there's been a great deal of proof for some of the allegations. Some are blatantly proven, and he should answer for those. But there are other allegations that we have not proven that are just rumor that we act on. And I don't think that that's right. I'm sorry. I don't. And I also don't think it's right for news publications and the media to print stories and run stories that are just intentionally false in order to pile on, as it were. The guy is kind of scummy enough without having to lie and add things on. I very much believe in the principle of, you'll know a tree by its fruit. That's a biblical principle. I think you do see the words out of someone's mouth, the actions that they perform, the things that they produce in the world are much more proof of their character than any other indicator. And so I don't need the media to tell me that the guy is not likable. He's already not likable. I don't need the media to lie to me. I can no longer trust any of these news outlets, any of them. I won't pay attention to any of them. I mean, I would advise you not to pay attention to any of them either. And the admonition that you should look at multiple news sources before you formulate your opinion, I think is also sort of a false dichotomy, because these sources are all biased and they're all supporting and corroborating each other. So anyway, the thing that happened had nothing to do with that. It had someone who clearly did not read my post pop on and call me, and forgive me for the language. He called me a shithead, shit for brains, and essentially was doing some verbal eye rolling. And when someone leapt to my defense, he tore her down too. Now, here's the thing. I almost tore into the guy myself. Like, that was my first instinct. But I recently reposted this story about Sarah Silverman, who was called the C word by someone on her Twitter channel. And she went and looked into the guy, looked at his profile, found out he was suffering, he was in pain. And instead of tearing into him, she started talking to him like a human being and even offered some kindness and support and essentially turned that guy's life around. And so I decided I would do the same. And I found out that the guy attacking me, he's an author himself. I don't know too much about him, but I know he's got a Wikipedia entry and he's got some history and background. And I actually ordered one of his books because I'm intrigued by him. And it turns out we share the same birthday. We're 3 decades apart, but we have the same birthday. So what I've decided is, however this turns out, and I really don't care how it turns out, I already know how I'm going to behave. I'm going to behave based on principle and value. And then we'll just let the cards fall where they may. And and I'm going to fail at this. Pardon me. I'm going to fail at this from time to time. So I'm going on record here, and you can hold me to it and point at it and say, look, you said you were going to do this, and you're failing. I'm perfectly fine with being told that I failed. I may get defensive, but I'll think about what you say, okay? But I'm going to try to live my life this way from now on, in that I'm no longer I don't want to react to anger and outrage with more anger and outrage. I've been commanded according to my faith, to love others as I love myself, which implies I need to love myself. But it also flat out states I should love other people at least as much as I love myself. And I know what I would want and expect from people. Most people are just looking for respect. And I think this guy was too. And this may turn around and bite me in the butt, and he may trash me. But I reached out with a friend request, and he accepted it. And I'm just going to keep treating him like I treat every author I know. And I'm going to try to be better about how I treat every author I know and everyone else I know. And if we disagree, I guess we disagree. I just don't want to react to negativity with more negativity anymore. So, other things, that's the sort of touchy-feely side of the episode. Let's get into some actual industry news. I got three cool stories I think you're going to dig. First, we have this one is astounding to me, and I can't wait to hear what people think about this. Will Amazon offer a 50% royalty? If you published using Amazon's Kindle Direct publishing service, you're probably aware that Amazon offers 2 royalty options: 35% if your book is priced $2.99, and 70% if you're priced between $2.99 and $9.99. But this past week, Amazon snuck in a little surprise for everybody with a 50% royalty option. Now, this thing wasn't clickable, and it disappeared just about as suddenly as it appeared. And as yet, no one knows what it might mean. And the rumor mill is just taking this and running with it. Speculation is just running wild. The most common hope/rumor is that Amazon may start offering a 50% royalty for non-exclusive books, and thus allowing authors to utilize services currently reserved only for exclusive works. So what do you think of this? Is this a non-exclusive KDP in our future? And what would that mean for indie authors? You'll find a link to this story in the show notes of this episode, so go check that out. But I would be curious if you are in a position to leave a comment on this episode anywhere. Please do. I'd love to hear what your take is on this. Wattpad gets $51 million. Toronto-based Wattpad is a storytelling app. If you haven't heard of it already, it's a storytelling app that allows users to write and publish short stories, articles, and even books, a chapter at a time, for readers to enjoy, comment on, and upvote. The company has just gotten a pretty significant financial boost from investors and venture capitalists to the tune of $51 million, bringing Wattpad's total funding to $117.8 million US so far. The company will fold this cash infusion into... I just realized what I wrote there. The company will fold this cash infusion into improving its tech platform in an effort to, quote, empower diverse storytellers all over the world, helping them build a community of passionate readers. This according to CEO Alan Lau. Lau also said that an objective of the company was to connect Hollywood with stories that have a bigger audience appeal. What could this mean for indie authors? Is this an opportunity to grab a movie deal, or will Wattpad be just another slush pile for studios to pick through? And again, I have another link to this in the show notes of this episode, and I'm very curious to hear your opinion on this. Wattpad is a platform I have utilized lightly, we'll say. So I'd be curious to see what happens as they start to improve the platform. And if it's going to be a sort of clearinghouse for potential Hollywood scripts, the game changes. And I'm very curious to see how that ends up. Could Amazon same-day delivery disrupt book printing? John Conley, CEO of Borderland Advisors, has 42 years in the business, and he believes Amazon has a shot at redefining book printing as an industry, stating that Amazon's same-day delivery requirements will force a necessary change to the business. Offset printing isn't going anywhere, Conley insists, but digital and on-demand are causing a building tsunami that will alter the DNA of the industry. Could this give indie publishers a strategic advantage? With authors regularly writing and publishing at an astoundingly rapid rate, will same-day delivery be the tool that tips the balance of power in publishing? Let me know what you think of that in the comments. My personal take on that, I think it will. I think that the fact that we have so many authors who are writing books in less than a month, some of which are writing a book a week in just a ridiculous amount of time, and with great tools like Vellum and Draft to Digital's print-ready PDFs that you can use for free, you can actually have your book ready to go as soon as you are done. Put the last period on it, close the book, it's done, and spit that out as an ebook and a print-ready PDF. You can actually reach your audience a day later if you want. Now that's fantastic. I think this is going to be a game changer if it happens. I think now it is just sort of an opinion and speculation on the part of Conley, but he does have 42 years in the business, and he knows what he's talking about when it comes to book printing. So I would love to see where it goes from here. that's it for the news this week. If you had anything you would like to see me cover in the future, pop on over to wordslingerpodcast.com, hit the contact button. You can send me news and story updates, and I can use those on the air, and I'll give you a little mention. How about that? If you'd like to support the Wordslinger podcast, there's a few ways you can do that. We're sponsored in part, you heard at the beginning of this episode, we're sponsored in part by Draft to Digital. You can convert, publish, and distribute your books worldwide with support the whole way, with a whole utility belt of free stuff that helps you build and grow your author business. Check that out at drafttodigital.com/wordslinger, and I get a little kickback off that. KDP Rocket, take control, get more readers, increase your Kindle rankings with KDP Rocket. You can use this pretty versatile tool to do some keyword research. It'll let you fine-tune the targeting for your book when you release on Amazon or elsewhere. You can use these same terms, these same keywords on every other platform. If you hop into Draft to Digital and you use these same keywords, they will help you on other publishing platforms. They can also help with your Google AdSense and keyword ranking. So pop over and check it out. You can find that at bit.ly/KDPslinger. You can support this show by subscribing and sharing it. Actually, if you'll go on to iTunes, search for Wordslinger Podcast, and leave me a review. Do like a 4 or 5 star review, sort of ranking, and write up a quick little, just tell me in a sentence or two what you get out of the show, how much you enjoy it. If you enjoy it, I hope you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you don't have to leave a review, but whatever. It's a free world and a free country. But if you can pop over there, those reviews really help out. So I appreciate every time you do that. It actually helps with the discoverability of the show. So just like authors, podcasters have to, reach an audience. We got to get out there and find new blood every now and then. So if you are willing to do that and share the show with your fellow authors and entrepreneurs and anybody you care about that might get something useful out of the programming here, I appreciate it. You can support the show on Patreon, and hey, I finally did it. I have updated Patreon. Still got a little way to go, but I've done some major updating on the Patreon page. Still working on the tiers and that sort of thing, but I do have a new video, and I do have a new description there, and new logos, and a whole bunch of new stuff, and a nifty new address. If you go to patreon.com/wordslingerpodcast, you can hop in there, and every dime you send my way each month goes to the production and overhead of the show. I use it to pay for hosting. I use it to pay for new equipment. I use it to buy myself some coffee and lunch and things like that keep me alive and happy and productive. So all those things, they matter, and I'm very appreciative. So your dollars do not go to waste. Every dime I get from that, it gets folded back into the show. In one way or another. And yeah, I do buy occasional cups of coffee, okay? And nachos. Nachos is the theme of the week. Thanks to Ernest Dempsey, who mentioned that nachos were his favorite food on a recent podcast. But check that out. I also like nachos. And of course, if you really want to be a pal, and a supporter of me and my work, go check out my books. You can go to kevintumlinson.com/books, where you can find all my latest stuff and my entire back catalog. If you are interested, I have a new book coming out, a new Dan Kotler archaeological thriller, The Girl in the Mayan Tomb. You'll be able to pick that up. Right now, it's on pre-order through January 26th for only $2.99. And then as of January 26th, it's popping up to $4.99. So good chance to save a couple of bucks and jump into this series. I think you're going to enjoy it. I've had very positive feedback on this book specifically, but also in the entire series. It just gets an overwhelming number of positive reviews. So I'm very proud of the characters. I'm very proud of the universe there. and I'm enjoying writing those. So I won't be quitting anytime soon. So pop in for an archaeological thriller, or there's also my sci-fi, YA, fantasy, all kinds of stuff that you'll be able to enjoy at kevintumlinson.com/books. You can also pick up a free book if you go to kevintumlinson.com/join-me, where you can download a free book to get you started. So I hope you enjoy that. Take care of yourselves. I'm glad that you tuned in. I hope you're out there staying warm right now. God bless each of you, and I'll see you all next time.
Word Slinger.